Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I wanted to look through this rowing magazine with you. Um, I am a master's rower, which means I'm an adult 21 and over. Um, I've been rowing for almost 3 years, and I really enjoy it. This issue is from October, um, so I picked it up at some point around that time from our indoor facility, and I don't think I ever actually read it, so I wanted to do that today. So this is the U.S. U19 Women's 8 gold medalist at the 2024 World Rowing Under 19 Championships. So if you are not familiar with rowing, I guess now's a good time to go over what we see here in this photo. So this is a women's 8, and that means that there are 8 rowers in the boat and a coxswain. The coxswain is the one who steers the boat. They are there to help motivate and encourage the rowers in the boat and to keep them on race pace during a race. Coxswains use their voices a lot, and so here the coxswain is technically in the back of the boat, the stern, and she is facing all of the other rowers. Now you can't really see, but this blue band here is attached to a microphone, and there are speakers throughout the rest of the boat, so the other rowers can hear her as well. So the person in front of her is stroke seat, and they are the ones who keep the pace for the boat. Now, whatever pace stroke seat is rowing, the person behind her needs to follow her, she needs to follow her, she needs to follow her, and so on. That is what keeps the boat in sync. And so, if everyone's not in sync, then you're really going to have some trouble on the water, especially during a race when race pace is definitely much higher than, just regular training pace. So the coxswain will let stroke seat know we're going to lower the pace or we're going to increase the pace by 2 beats or whatever language that coxswain uses, because different coxswains use different words and different phrases. It's very personalized. So however she would communicate that, she would say that, and stroke seat would automatically know what that means she has to do. And then so in turn, everyone would follow stroke seat. Yeah. Oh, and this type of rowing is called sweep rowing because each rower only has one oar, and there is an oar on either side of the boat, so every other is going to be on the same side. So you have port and I had my mind went blank. You have port side and you have starboard side. I am a starboard rower. I've rowed port maybe twice. I would like to be bisexual, as they say, but I just haven't done that quite yet. But I am a starboard rower. Oh, also, the person in the back, that is called bow seat. And so the seats are numbered from 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So you have stroke pair, and you have bow pair, and then you have the engine room. And so here is someone who is in a single. So that just means one rower. And in a single, the rower sculls. And that means that you have 2 oars. So one in each hand. They are skinnier than the sweep oars. But they're still, they're not as tall. The sweep oars are very tall. I'm quite short at about 5'2", and I'd say the sweep oars are at least 6 feet tall. So this is a photo from a regatta this past fall called Head of the Charles. It's very big and very popular. A lot of clubs want to go to this regatta to compete. It looks like they had their first regatta in 1986, and 2024 was their 39th year hosting this regatta. And so it looks like, it's kind of hard to see, but it looks like these 2 boats are quads, which means you have 4 people in the boat, and there is no coxswain, so bow seat steers the boat with their foot. It's an interesting thing. It's kind of hard to explain if you can't see it, but your foot is attached to the steering mechanism in the boat, and to go one way or the other, you move your foot in either direction to steer. And typically, bow seat they'll have a mirror on. I've seen some people have mirrors on their hats, so that way they can see behind them, because our backs are facing the direction that we are going. And so when you don't have a coxswain there to steer, then bow seat has to take on that job. Looks like these are just some ads. These are shoes that are quite expensive, but they're very good because you don't have to adjust the shoes in the boat every time you get in. With my master's team, we switch seats a lot, and so depending on the makeup of who's there for practice that day, your seat may change, so you may have to adjust, and that can take a little bit of time to do that instead of just hopping in and getting on the water right away. And this is a boat on the dock. I don't know if they are coming or going, but another interesting thing is coastal rowing. I don't know if you have seen what that looks like before, but the boats they're different than your typical rowing shell. These are bigger because you have to deal with the waves from the ocean versus being on, some kind of reservoir or river. So it looks like, and they are sculling. So they each have 2 oars here. I think it's kind of hard to see. Yes. So let's see. New sport in a medieval port. The World Rowing Coastal Championships were the first of 2 world rowing events on consecutive weekends in Genoa, Italy, followed by the World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals. The emerging discipline of coastal rowing makes its Olympic debut in Los Angeles in 2028 in the form of beach sprints. So, I am not that familiar with coastal rowing, but I've seen videos of it being done and beach sprints. So, what those are, from what I remember, so the rowers start out on the beach. So in rowing, everything is time based. So you want to have the fastest time. So for coastal rowing and like the beach sprints, they start off on the beach and, at however they designate how many feet from the water. And then the rowers run, sprint to the water and get in their boats. And then after that, I am not entirely sure what happens. I don't know how far they have to go out into the ocean, if it's a set amount of meters and then they turn around. I'm not entirely sure, but I would like to look more into that to see what that's all about. So, here we go. We've got some coastal rowing boats here, and these are all with 4 rowers and coxswain. So in a men's boat, it's common to have a man or a woman as the coxswain. I haven't seen really as far as, well, even in juniors, which are high schoolers, there isn't a male coxswain in the women's boat. I haven't seen that, but I have regularly seen women as coxswains for the men's boat. In masters, you get all kinds of different combinations, so that's always cool to see. So in this middle boat, you can see it looks like that might be a woman, and that might be a woman, and that's a guy. And then you see this big old ship here. So let's read what this says. Adverse weather was no match for the 2024 World Rowing Coastal Championships in Genoa, Italy, as organizers moved racing up by a day to avoid it. 7 boat classes of men's and women's solo, double, and coxed quads, plus a mixed double, raced over 4 kilometers of open water. Okay. So it looks like they might have a set distance then, I guess. Yeah, so these are quads. So they each have 2 oars in their hands. Let's see, this photo is the Saugatuck Rowing and Fitness Club in Westport, Connecticut, and they offered free rowing lessons to juniors and adults. So again, juniors are just kids in high school, and then my club, we have the masters team, we have the juniors, and then we also have U14. So that would be kids under 14 and in middle school, and we start at 6th grade. So it looks like here they have a rowing program that is open to everyone, and they are not a private club. Well, that's cool. Yeah, that they give free lessons because, I mean, rowing as a sport is it's not a cheap sport. Especially when you, aside from just registration fees and, paying for the season, or however, a club breaks down their membership, you've got to pay for uniforms, and those aren't necessarily cheap. And then travel for meets outside of, your city or outside of your state. Our juniors do travel quite a bit. Us masters, we pretty much decide our own regattas, and we may choose to go to one or not go to one depending on interest and other factors. So the masters team is just a little bit different than the juniors. But this is a really nice place, it looks like, to row. So it looks like in some news here, it says the Murphys retire after 40 years of exceptional success coaching women's rowing. It looks like they are a husband and wife team, and they coached at Brown University. Wow, that's a long time to coach. Let's see. So here we go, some information about indoor rowing. So the 2025 World Rowing Indoor Championships, presented by Concept 2, which is the maker of the Row Erg, or what we call Erg, which is the standard rowing machine, I would say, for the majority of the rowing community. Let's see, so it will take place over the last 2 weekends of February virtually. The top 150 competitors in each gender and weight category per continental time zone who submit times during the open qualification period from November 2024 through January 2025 will be invited to enter heats conducted across 3 continental time zones. Finals will be broadcast live during European viewing hours. So I'll have to see if I can catch that, depending on the dates. My club is doing our own indoor rowing championships at one of the universities here. That's held annually, so there'll be some college clubs there, our club, and some other clubs there. And it's open to, masters, juniors, and I believe U14. Looks like these guys, let's see, Row Buffaloes Senior 8 at Royal Canadian Henny Regatta. I wonder if that's supposed to say Henley. Or maybe that's just an entirely different regatta that I do not know. Oh, let's see. Yeah, here we go. The Canadian Henley. So I think that was just a typo. So the Henley, that's another popular regatta in Canada. So here's some news about the 2024 Paris Olympics. UK rowers win 3 gold medals and silver in 5 Paralympic events. It says the US PR3 mixed coxed 4 won silver behind the British in their 14-year unbeaten streak. That is quite some time. Yeah, that's really cool. The look of determination on those faces there. Those glasses, I forget what they're called, but they're very popular amongst rowers, especially the younger folks. Oh, I forget what they're called. I don't own any. But yeah, I've seen quite a few rowers wearing those glasses. Let's see. So let's see. This person won the women's PR1 single. The event considered to have started para rowing over 20 years ago. And here we have a U.S. boat. Let's see. In this photo, it's the men's under 23 coxed 4. And they won gold by open water over Italy, France, Australia, and Germany on the Canadian Henley course in St. Catharines, Ontario. So, yeah, so this is a 4. So there's 4 rowers, and each rower has 1 oar. The coxswain is up here. So in this 4, and in a lot of 4s, the coxswain is actually facing away from the rowers in this instance, instead of facing them. There are boats that are 4s, but they don't have a coxswain. So it would just be, so if someone were writing it down, it'd be like a minus sign 4. So that's to say there's no coxswain. That's not a coxed 4. And so for a coxed 4, you'd have, right, the number 4 and a plus sign after it. So let's see. It says U.S. wins a single gold in under 19 and under 23 races, but in Senior World Rowing Championships extends a 5-year gold medal drought. So it looks like we won some, but still trying to get that gold medal there. And so in this one, this is the U.S. Women's Under 23 Coxed 4. And they won silver behind New Zealand and ahead of Italy and Canada. Also at the 2024 World Rowing Under 23 Championships. And it is the best finish for the U.S. since 2018. So good job to them. So in this coxed 4, the coxswain. So in the other photo, so you can see the coxswain right here. You can't, see the rest of them, but that's their back. But they might have been sitting up at that point. But here is what it looks like in a coxed 4. So the coxswain is, essentially laying down, and their feet, there's open space here, so their feet can extend through. And there's like a sort of, I don't really know what it's called. It's like like a belt kind of thing that's attached to either side of the boat on the inside for the coxswain to lay back on, I guess. Yeah, I've never really used it. In a cox 4 that I have coxed before, I just sit up essentially. Let's see. And this is the lightweight men's quad. And they won the sole U.S. medal, a silver at the Senior World Rowing Championships. Mexico won gold, less than 4/10 of a second ahead of the U.S. So, as I mentioned before, time is very, very important for this sport. This is a time-based sport. So every single second counts, and you can win or lose by less than 4/10 of a second. So the margins can be very, very small. So this is a quad, so there's no coxswain in this boat. Bow seat is steering. Let's see, this is the US 8 and the US Women's 8, and they won the World Rowing Under 19 Championships, and they had an open water lead at the 1,000 meter mark and crossed the finish line more than 5 seconds ahead of Great Britain in second place. So that's a really, really, really good lead. And as you can see the coxswain's face. So the cox does yell like that. That's just part of it. And so for someone who's not familiar with it, it can look very, very intense, and you're like, why is she screaming or why is he screaming? But that's just how it is. I mean, you can't really speak softly when you're a coxswain. You've got to have a vocal power. Oh, this is a cool picture. This is the U.S. Women's Under 23 8, and they won silver behind Great Britain. Let's see, the U.S. Men's Under 19 8, and they finished second to Great Britain to win silver ahead of Germany, who won bronze, New Zealand, France, and Canada at Mega Worlds. So let's see, this article here is talking about live streaming regattas to attract viewers and boost the sport, and it's becoming a more common and necessary practice. I have actually streamed some regattas online, like Head of the Charles and Henley. YouTube will have those streaming because this is not really a sport. You're not going to find this on TV just randomly. And I don't even know if if someone were to have cable and have a sports package, I'm not even sure if you'd be able to watch rowing through that, because otherwise, if you're not there personally, in person, then your only option is to stream it online in real time. That way you're not catching everything late and maybe having races spoiled for you. So I really love that they have been streaming them online so people can get to see them as they are currently happening. Let's see. Yeah, I won't read this entire article there. Let's see. Training. Lessons from the Paris Olympics. All the successful rowers show the typical U-shaped face profile. All the successful rowers showed the typical U-shaped race profile, a fast first and fourth 500 meters. That just sounds weird to me. A fast first and fourth 500 meters and slower and constant speed in the middle 1,000 meters. There we go. So, here's another view of a single and what that looks like. And looks like this is a Dutch rower who won the bronze medal in Paris. So, you know, in a race, you don't want to go out too fast. Anything like that, like sprinting, endurance running, like those super long runs you see at the Olympics, or, even cycling or, swimming. Like, you don't want to go too hard in the beginning, because that's just a surefire way to, oh, my stomach's making noise. That's just a surefire way to waste energy, and then you won't have enough to pull you through at the end, which is very important, especially in these time-based sports. So typically in a race, we have a race pace that we will row at, and that is going to be faster than our just regular training pace. And so, we will hold that pace for a certain amount of meters, and then, as we get closer to the finish line, we will pick up the pace and go even faster, and that's when, like, the last 500 meters, that's when we are really pushed, and that's when things can get really hard mentally and physically, especially if you are racing a 2K. It's a love-hate relationship with 2Ks, and if you know, you know. If you don't, be glad you don't. But the last 500 meters is definitely where skill and technique and endurance really comes in, and it can make or break you, and it's very challenging, but rewarding. Yeah. Let's see. These are different. So this is looks like it's the inside of a boat here. So this is like some equipment that we use. So this is a Cox box, and the microphone plugs into here, and it will tell you, your splits and how many meters you are going, as you go. This one is a bit different than the ones that we typically have in our club, but they all function in generally the same way. I am not a coxswain, so I can't tell you what this is or what this is. I know that there's a separate device called a speed coach. So I think this might be the speed coach. And so that's, you get the rating for your boat. And the rating is given, there's like sensors or something, I don't know, underneath stroke seat. So that's the person sitting in front of the coxswain. So the rating is taken from their seat, and it sees the pace that they are going. So it's kind of hard for me to explain because I am not a coxswain. I have coxed a handful of times, but I wouldn't call myself a coxswain. But I actually will be leaning more into coxing and learning more about coxing this year, because so about a year ago, I had some sort of back injury and I couldn't row from about the end of December to May. We usually get back on the water around mid to the end of April, depending on the temperature of the water. And so we got back on, I think, towards the end of April, and I didn't get back on till the beginning of May. That's when I felt like I was ready after, doing a couple of weeks of physical therapy. So I rode, throughout spring, throughout summer, and throughout fall. And then at one of our fall regattas, I don't know what I did, but I hurt my back again. And so I didn't go to our last regatta, which was the first week of November at Head of the Hooch, which is in Tennessee. So I didn't do that, and pretty much since then I have not rowed. That's our end of season regatta, and then we switch to winter training, and that is when we are at our indoor rowing facility, where all of our ergs are. So I have not been participating in winter season, just because I do not want to injure my back further. I definitely don't want to get to the point where I was before, when just getting in and out of the car, out of bed, like any movement just really, really hurt. I'm thankfully not in that much pain, but I really don't want to mess it up. So I have rode here and there. I also have my own erg in my basement, so I can always practice on my own, but I've only done that a handful of times, just because I just don't really feel comfortable rowing right now. But so I do want to get into coxing this year, and learning more about it, especially since the masters only have one cox, and things can get quite busy with the amount of entries we have for regattas, and our coxswain, sometimes due to the schedule, or she can't be in two places at once. So I think it would be great to have another coxswain, and I'm happy to learn so I can fulfill that role. And also, it still keeps me connected to my team, to the sport, because I do not want to give this up anytime soon. So I still want to be able to participate, and so coxing is just a different way to do that. So looks like this article is talking about recruitment. It's a whole process that I'm not familiar with, because I'm not a high school rower, and I don't have children who row. So but I do know, it's a bit of a process, and I do know that there are there are a lot of scholarships available to women who row, and that's whether you row or whether you are a cox. So, that is getting involved in the sport is a great way to get a scholarship. Yeah. There we go. Let's see. It's talking about rowing in rough water. How you should have loose shoulders to let the arms absorb hitting the top of a wave, catching an edge, or adjusting the blade height on the recovery. The recovery is part of the stroke, so it's kind of hard to just talk about when there's no visual, but he is, wow, it looks like their boat is like underwater. I can't even see like his legs or the stern. Wow. But yeah, so he's in the recovery position pretty much. And that's when your legs are straight and your body is not at 12 o'clock, but you're like at 11 at the recovery. And then when you're at the catch, when your legs are bent perpendicular and your body is forward, it's more like, think of 2, so 11 and 2 for the upper half of your body. Alright, looks like this is a boathouse. So this is what a typical boathouse might look like. You have these metal racks, so you can stack boats. They're not on top of each other. They're sitting on the racks on the gunnel, which is a flat part of the boat. And you have these metal pieces here. Those are called the riggers. And that is attached to the boat. We take those off when we are traveling to regattas, when we have to bring our boats. We have to take all the riggers off, and we wrap those up in like saran wrap to keep them all together. And then this little square here, that's the oar lock, and that is what you put the oar through. And there's like a lock, and you twist it to tighten it or loosen it. And that's what keeps the oar attached to the boat. And this is what like a typical unisuit, or uni as a lot of people call them. So this is what most rowers row in. So you'll see juniors, high schoolers and collegiate rowers, and those who are, big time athletes. So in the Olympics and championships and national competitions, they will all be wearing some sort of unisuit with, their teams or clubs or countries' colors on them. The masters, at least in our club, we are not required to wear a unisuit. We do have masters tanks that masters buy, with whatever spandex bottoms that they want. There are some masters that actually do have the unisuit, so we can have either, but I do know that for some competitions, especially for youth nationals, which our club participates in every year. Everyone in the boat has to be wearing the same thing, so it's important that they all have matching uniforms. Alright, it looks like that was it. Yeah, so this is what an erg or rowing machine from Concept 2 looks like. And, they make oars for the boats. This is called the row erg, so they make the row erg. They also make something called ski erg, which, mimics the motions of skiing. And so I've seen people use that for, workouts. And then they also make the bike erg, so that's like a spin bike. I'm not a fan of spin bikes or any kind of stationary bike, just because I always hate the seats. I just find them so uncomfortable. So I would never be on that. I have thought about buying a ski erg. I don't know, probably a year ago I was looking on like Facebook Marketplace and I saw like one or two for sale. The great thing about the Concept 2 products is that they do retain their value. So this rowing machine is about $1,000. I don't know if the price has gone up now, but when I bought it, it was $1,000. And so when people, resell theirs, you can pretty much resell it close to retail value because they don't lose that value. They hold them for, decades, really. Some people have theirs from, so long ago, and, they may have updated their screen. The older models didn't have this, so they may have bought that to add to it, but generally, they last quite some time. So I really do like mine, and it was definitely a good investment. I hope to be able to get back on it soon. But this guy here, let's see, he's the fastest U.S. single sculler in history. And his name is Jacob Plehow. And he's the American record holder and the men's 1X. Crazy. Oh, you can see the bike erg back here. That's the bike erg. And it doesn't look like he has a ski erg in there that I can see, so I can't show you that. But before we end, I just want to look at this real quick. The first family of rowing. Meet the Rushers of Wisconsin: Jack, Cindy, Kay, Allie, and Nick. 4 of them Olympians, 3 of them medal winners. That's cool. To have this be, a family sport. Let's see. It looks like the parents were on the national teams, like the men's national team and the women's national team. Looks like the mom rowed at Wisconsin as part of their national championship 1986-8, and the dad rowed in national championship boats at Harvard in 1987, 88, and 89. The mom won a silver medal in the cockless 4 at the Barcelona Olympics in 1992, and the dad won a bronze in the 1988 Seoul Olympics in the 8. And let's see, looks like one of the son has bronze medal from Paris, the Paris Olympics. And let's see. Kay, the oldest, rode at St. Paul's and Stanford. That's cool. Well, thank you for sitting with me while we look through this magazine together. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a thing or two about the sport of rowing. If you'd like to know more, please let me know. And I think I have a few other magazines that we could take a look through. Yeah, subscribe if you would like, and I will see you next time.